There you go. Thank you very much. Thanks, Becca. Andy, how you doing? Hey, Jeff, it's been a while since you joined one of the tastings. You all right? No, he doesn't want to talk to us anyway.
No, that was Morse code. Hang on.
It was Morse code. That was help. SOS, yes.
He's probably only joined because he's on another ban from Facebook. He's got no better to do.
He's not been ranting on Facebook again.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll kick off since we're recording anyway, and I know there's hopefully a few more will get a chance to join. Hi, Dave, by the way. How you doing? You well? Thanks for joining us. So the usual little bit of housekeeping. Use the chat if you want to ask questions, or we don't stand on formalities here. Just jump in if you've got any questions and stuff. Where tonight we are going to be sampling some fine spirits, and I say spirits for the first time because actually we have brandy, rum, single grain and single malts all thrown in to the same lineup. Wow. Just a quick show of hands, who's got a lot of experience with brandy? John? Yeah.
Just on the Christmas cake.
Just on good. Well, I've got a very small amount of experience with well, actually not really with brandy, with rum, not really with brandy. What about rum? How many people have got sort of some background with rum? John again. John, just keep your hand up, mate.
Some bad experiences with rum.
Well, yeah, I know we've done Worthy Park a couple of times. And some of their rums are exceptional. So it'd be very interesting to have this. Jeff, are you putting up a hand because you want to ask something, or you want to have a go at me or something? Come on, I'm ready for you.
He's clairvoyant now. He's hearing the spirits talk.
Come on. In Scotland, rum is very much a regional thing, and you in England will never have heard of Stewart's rum, but Stewart's rum is the #1 rum by a long chalk in the Shetland Islands, and we used to sell that. The company I worked for back in the 80s used to sell that to a company called Hewson Brothers, who now own the brand up in Shetland. So you find that for example, Trawler rum is big in Aberdeen. Blackheart is big in the west of Scotland, whereas OVD is big in Dundee.
Blackheart was big in my
borders,
Scottish grandmother's belly.
Skipper rum is big.
Yeah. There you go. So tonight, though, we are going to be trying some Diamond Distillery rum. So I'd like to introduce you all to Rachel and George, who have very kindly joined us tonight to walk us through. Essentially, this is your first releases, and 6 very fine and pretty sort of full-on sexy numbers all in your first lineup. How did you manage to pull this off? I mean, did you intentionally wanted to kind of hit the ground running with a big stunning lineup? Was that the intention?
Yes.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. So what you're saying is this what we're going to expect from every lineup you do, or is this a little bit of a, you know, you really wanted to make a statement with this lineup?
Well, I think you know, launching any new product into a fairly crowded market, you know, it seemed to make sense to want to, you know, release something a range that was varied, but all similar in the sense that all very high quality liquids. To sort of give a bit of background info for anyone who's unfamiliar with us. So Fragrant Drops is our independent bottling range. The bottles look a bit like this. The kind of we've gone for an apothecary vibe. So a lovely solid glass stopper, and there's sort of a unique bit of artwork done for every single cask release. So far, what we've bottled up is everything is single cask, everything is cask strength, so undiluted, unchill filtered, uncolored, unadulterated, and just really great liquids. The majority of the stock that we have is single malt Scotch whisky, of which we'll be trying 4 in this tasting. And we have some single grains in our inventory, and we have some rums, and we have
some brandies.
Some brandies. If I may, I'd like to kickstart the tasting and just touch on to talk about the first release, which is the Port Dundas. So we're starting off with a.
Wait, does everyone know what they're doing though? Does everyone know?
So Port Dundas is your sample number 1. I kindly made sure tonight there's no errors. I actually made sure I got Rachel and George to tell me exactly what the order of play would be tonight. So there's not going to be any errors. This is number 1. This was the suggested. This is the Port Dundas.
I like the fact that Rachel just needed to make sure. Make sure that Carl definitely had it right.
Yes.
It's a bit of a broad statement. Does everyone know what they're doing? Tends to blur by the end.
So we're relying on the fact that Carol can count to 6, are we?
It's a tall order.
More than one hand, that, isn't it?
Are you sure?
Stuart. Thanks, Stuart. So yes, dive into sample number 1. While I guess so, why did you think this one first? I guess out of the 6,
That's nice.
I'm guessing because it's going to be the sweetest. It's going to be the most approachable out of the 6. Was that the sort of logic behind it?
It's very easy going.
I mean, it's a bit late to be calling it a breakfast whiskey, but I would normally refer to this as being a decent breakfast whiskey. Very light, very approachable. Port Dundas was a grain distillery that no longer exists. It was shut down for good in about 2009. And this is a 21-year-old. So it was the cask, which is a generic refill bourbon barrel, was filled in 2000, in November 2000, and then it was bottled in November 2022, which sounds like it should be a 22-year-old. It was in fact bottled 4 days before its 22nd birthday, which was a slight clerical error on our part.
Yeah.
Just a simple mistake. We just didn't check. We tasted it and thought, yum, 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 it's great. Let's get it in the bottle. And then, yeah, we realized that it was bottled 4 days before its 22nd birthday.
Yeah, which is a bit annoying, really.
Celebi.
There we go.
Was that what you might call a bit of a rookie error?
Maybe. But the awful thing is, Carl, we've just bottled up 4 other casks and we've done it again.
But actually, is that an indication of how you're approaching your releases, in that you actually don't really give a shit what the age is in some respects? It's more about actually, this is bloody lovely, get this out now, and actually you're not even necessarily looking at. I know you will, and obviously you would have regretted not waiting those additional 4 days, but you went with it because it was bloody lovely. And I'm guessing that that's how you kind of, you're approaching your business almost. If you love it, get it out there.
I mean, yes, I'd love to say that that's the case. And it is, I guess, to a certain extent. The thing is, a lot of the time, because we don't have our own warehousing facility, we rely, well, at the moment we're bottling with Whiskey Broker. And, you know, they've always got a lot of work on. When we bottled these, it was during the Christmas rush as well. So we weren't quite sure when it was that they would be able to bottle them up for us. And it just so happened that they bottled them a little bit sooner than we anticipated they would. But to be honest, I don't really care because it's a cracking dram. And, you know, age, people do get, you know, quite hung up on age. But when you get in, like when you've got a grain, especially, most grains that are on the market until recently actually are generally a bit older. So it doesn't, I mean, 1 year, I don't know, it doesn't bother me anyway.
I think 21 sounds better than 22 anyway.
Yes, thank you very much, Brian. And in answer to your question, Brian, yes, all the cask numbers are on the front of the bottle. So yes.
Is there on the website somewhere where we can get them?
Yeah, do you put them on the website? The cask numbers?
Oh, the cask numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they on the website?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yes, you're probably right, especially with grain whiskey, because without being obtuse and big-headed, the public tends to be really ignorant about grain whiskey, and their focus in particular is on the malts. They're very dismissive of grain whiskey and the blends, which is wrong, because yes, grain whiskey when it's young is harsh and unforgiving, but once it's got some age in it, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I guess we've seen some indies doing pretty good stuff with young grains, as long as they're putting a pretty heavy finish on that young grain. I mean, we've certainly seen some from the likes of Murray McDavid. I guess even Whiskey Broker have done some young aged grain whiskey that have been finished off in an octave or something, and they've been pretty damn good, really, for the money anyway.
So yeah, this one's pretty strong. It does take water very well, just in case.
It's 62.1%.
Yeah.
Did you
I
say
think a lot of people have been very surprised when they've tasted it and then we've told them afterwards, oh, by the way, it is 62.1. It's always nice to try a whiskey from a distillery that doesn't exist anymore. And, you know, I think with Port Dundas, you know, at least for the last 5 or so years, yeah, it's been very affordable to buy a bottle of Port Dundas, but it's not going to be the case in 5 years' time or 10 years' time. It'll be even worse. You know, we fortunately we have stockpiled some Port Dundas 2000s, so we've got at least another 5 or 6 or 7 lined up for future releases.
Just out of interest, Rachel and George, how many casks, if you're able to give us a kind of rough idea, what is your kind of stock? You know, how many options do you have going forward for the moment? Because obviously that's one of the big things that's hitting the whole market. You know, the whole market is just how expensive and it's becoming to kind of buy casks.
Definitely.
So have you guys got a reasonable stock, or is that something that's you're challenging?
We've got about 400 at the moment.
Right.
It varies. Sometimes we need to sell some, sell some on to other bottlers or to anyone who's looking,
individuals.
Individuals that are looking to buy a cask. But at the moment we're sitting on about 400.
But it's important to note that a lot of those are quite young casks as well.
Yeah.
A lot of those aren't ready to bottle at all.
No, there'll be a lot of re-racking that will be required as well, because a lot of the casks that we've got are in shite wood.
Yeah. Yeah.
So therefore, the Diageo casks.
Hey, couldn't possibly comment.
I couldn't comment.
Sorry, or Invergordon.
So just I guess touching on what made you guys set up your own indie bottler. By the way, we're gonna do the feedback on the number one, but just out of interest, I don't know if you can give us a bit of a potted history of how you guys got into becoming Fragrant Drops and getting into this.
Well, I've worked in the whiskey industry for 13 years now. So I started off working behind the bar at a small members whiskey club in London called Soho Whiskey Club.
I can see Trevor's in. Hi, Trevor.
Yeah. Hi, Trevor. And I worked there for about 7 years. And then I did a course at the Institute of Brewing and Distilling, and I decided that it was high time, after having talked about whiskey for so long and poured many, many drams over those 7 years, that I should learn to make it. So with my qualification from the Institute of Brewing and Distilling, I decided I was going to go to Australia and hopefully get a job working as a whiskey distiller down under. So Rachel and myself, we met sort of in the interim, and then we both went out together, and we spent a couple of years down under, and I got a job working as a distiller at Starwood Distillery in Melbourne, Victoria. We did that for a while, and then we came back and I started Keeble Cask Company, which is a sort of wholesaler. I hate to use the B word, brokerage, but yeah, we're a whiskey cask brokerage. We don't do cask investment. We sell casks and people buy them for investment, but we're not investment salesy people. But I built up enough contacts to make that a viable option. So that's done very well. And then the long-term sort of stepping stone was the next stepping stone was going to be independent bottlings, which is where we are now. And then,
can I take over?
Yes.
So I was just going to say, isn't it Rachel that really is the boss?
With Fragrant Drops, though, it was important for us to branch out. It was always the plan to do this, but for many reasons. The first one is that it's fun to do. We're both whiskey drinkers. We're met because of whiskey. We're business partners and life partners, and yeah, whiskey is, it's life, really. Like, obviously there's lots of things to life, but we love it. Whiskey punctuates our life, and it was important for us to do it. And I know it's not the best time to do it because it's bloody expensive to do, and it's important that when you're entering the market, you're not too expensive. And I think that we're in a bit of a we're like kind of middling. I do look at what we're putting out there and see what else is kind of on the market, which is the same sort of spec. And I'd say sometimes you just can't compete with people that have, been in the industry for 20 years plus, and they've got all of these casks. And at the end of the day, we're whiskey drinkers, and the question is, would we buy this bottle of whiskey at the price that we've suggested? And if the answer is no, then we wouldn't bottle it. Prime example, we're gonna, in this next release, we're gonna do a 7-year-old Kalila that had been finished in Palo Cortado, and it's honestly, it's absolutely scrummy. But I ran the figures on it, and we couldn't have brought it to market for less than, say, £95, and it was only 7 years old. And James Eady have done at least 2 that are 11 or 12 years old, I think, and they were at 70 quid. So we're going to have to sit on those, and it's an interesting time to join the market. the second reason why we've become an independent bottler is because we think it'll give us access to better stock as well, if I'm being completely honest, from suppliers, because, you know, it's just us two in our normal job, which is whiskey wholesaling. And a lot of these people don't know us from Adam. You know, we speak on the phone, but we've not met in person. And it's just a trust sort of thing, I think. And the fact that now we're bottling stuff, they can say, right, these guys aren't just flipping stuff. They actually care about it, and they're putting themselves out there.
And is there a chance as well that, you know, it's easier almost to build a brand around a retail brand than, say, Keble Cask? You know, so you might find that Fragrant Drops becomes a bigger brand, like more knowledge about it, or it gets around more than, say, Keble Cask would, because it's just it's in people's homes and stuff more. Is that maybe also some of that element, is that, you know, as an indie bottler, the brand is likely to be where you spend more time building the brand almost?
Well, yeah, because it's a more wholesome thing, isn't it?
It's more enjoyable than staring at spreadsheets day in, day out.
Yes.
Whiskey's there to be enjoyed. And I can't tell you how much pride and how much of a thrill it is to see your bottle behind a bar.
Yeah.
A good bar. Do you know what I mean? There's no, it's such a point of pride. It really is.
Having worked behind the bar at a whiskey establishment for several years, it is, for me, it's a big point of pride to go into other whiskey bars in Edinburgh and see our bottles behind it. So that makes it all worthwhile. And it's a lot more. It's a lot of fun. It's a passion project. And moving forward, you know, we launched about 6 weeks ago, so we're really new. I think moving forward, I'm hoping that things will just get better. But you know, it's going to take, I think, realistically, a couple of years for us to
build the reputation.
Build up a reputation
of bottling great shit, basically.
Well, we're going to have to get you into a bar in Newcastle somewhere.
I think, was it Joanne that mentioned Lady Grey in Newcastle? Because I was in there and I did actually give the manager a couple of drams, and he was like, yo, good. Like, so I am gonna hit him up because he seemed very enthusiastic.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Newcastle as a whole, well, the Northeast is, I know I've said this quite a few times, but we don't really have a decent, like, full-on whiskey bar. But anyway, that's a different story. Let's go back to this Port Dundas. What's everybody thinking? Shall we do a little bit of a check? Does anybody want to dive in and say what they thought of it? Or do you want me to pick on somebody? Anybody want to dive in? Right, that's it. You were too slow. Keith, you look like you've got your nose buried in that glass. Come on, what do you think of this Port Dundas?
Right. Turn my mic on, that would help. No, I quite enjoyed it. I'm not usually keen on grain, but no, I quite like it. It's sweet, vanilla, bit of spice. It takes the water well. Quite enjoying it with quite a bit of water in it. So yeah, I'm rather enjoying that.
And you said that you don't tend to get on that well with grain. Is that what tends to put you off grain in general?
I always find there's a spirit back towards more chemical driven than from the maltiness from a single malt. But no, it's just it's one of the reasons why I don't can't get on with blends either.
Yeah.
I always get that spirit gets to the back. It's always at the back of the palate.
Yeah.
Because actually that's quite nice. I mean, it's got a bit of age on it as well.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of other Port Dundases downstairs, some Cadenheads and some other indie Port Dundases, and I pull them out once in a while, and it's rather nice.
Yeah.
Very sweet. I mean, breakfast. I think George got it right when he said it was a breakfast whiskey. So yeah, I'll save some for breakfast for tomorrow. With my crumpets.
Cheers, Keith. So I believe, Francie, this is your first time you've joined us. Are you up for having a little chat with us? What do you think of this Port Dundas? And welcome, by the way. Thanks for joining.
How you doing, guys? All right? Can you hear me okay, yeah?
Absolutely.
Hi, Francie.
Yo.
Hey, guys. How you doing? All right? I had to be here. I had to be here.
Nice surprise.
NEWAS was kind enough to let me into their gang, so, you know, but this is a delicious dram, lovely, sweet. I'm getting a lot of toffee popcorn, like butter-kissed, almost creamy, sweet, beautiful vanilla. A lovely dram, guys. Well done. I mean, beautiful grain. And I'm looking forward to the rest. I'm looking forward to the rest of the drams, because if you're starting off with this, I can't imagine what we're going to get in the next one's coming up. It's a great way to start.
Yeah, it probably is ideal, and you know, I'm not sure if it'd been entirely left to me what order we might have had. So I'm glad that George and Rachel made sure we started with this one. So, and I definitely understand where you're coming from in terms of it being very creamy. It does have a great mouthfeel. It is a lovely example of a single grain whiskey for me, anyway. Anybody not getting on with this dram quite so much? I know we haven't done the old thumbs up, thumbs sideways yet, but anybody not so keen, not enjoying it? We like the outlying opinions here. Go on, Andy.
Well, as the proper amateur, yeah, without water, I was like, that's a bit hot for me, that, like.
Right.
It's put the water in, lovely. Could drink that all day. But the initial drink was a bit, it took us by surprise.
Yeah, and it's at 62 now. For me, it didn't feel like 62, but I guess you don't tend to have that many grains either. Is that right? Or
to be fair, we're talking in language that is all new to me. I'm just getting used to the different colours, let alone what's in the liquid. So yeah, I'm starting from a base level of understanding of whiskies, yeah. But as you know, what I drink probably better than what I do. I'll agree with that. I'm not drinking many grains.
Well, I know that your heart lies more in the rum than anything to date, but I'm absolutely convinced I'm going to get you more into whiskey.
To be fair, yes, the rum is more me, but I am intrigued by the final drink of the night, the Mezcal, because I'm a big fan of Mezcal.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that Ardmore, definitely. All right, cheers, Andy. So, shall we do the old thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down? What's everybody thinking? So, for me, it's a definite. Okay, Stuart, I'm coming to you. Yes. Steve, you look like you're kind of hovering a bit there. Okay. Trevor, or I might come to you as well, Trevor, as well. I think, so on the whole, I think most people, or Steve T as well. Okay, so who am I going to pick on? So Stuart, I always pick on you anyway, you know I do.
Standard, mate, standard, that's it.
So sideways for you, so you're all right with it, but didn't necessarily float your boat entirely. But we do need
exactly, mate. Nice enough, but no more than that for me. Yeah. I always kind of struggle a wee bit with the grains. The finish is just so short. I find, you know, it's like it's there, flavour, bang, gone. That's it. Drink it a lot quicker. I like something with a long finish that, you know, I can sip away on, and I don't think I could sip away in that. I'd be taking a dram every few minutes. If it was just that I was having. So as I say, not bad. But it's probably the grain angle more than anything else for me, to be honest. But, yeah, okay.
Fair enough. Yeah. Actually, I meant to do this right at the start. Does everybody know what the lineup is tonight? Does everybody know what the 6 drams are?
No.
Because I know actually, if you check in the chat.
Yeah, Dave pasted it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was put in the chat. Yeah, so Dave Cox kindly put it in the lineup in the chat. So if you scroll back to near the start, I'm just curious, what before everybody tries all of these 6, would you mind putting in a number in the chat what you think you like the most out of the lineup before we get into them all? Which do you think is going to be your favorite?
In advance.
So before we try them all, what are you thinking? Do you think the brandy is going to be your favorite? Do you think the Ardmore? Do you think this grain's going to be your favorite? Okay. So Brian, you're reckoning this one's going to be your favorite. Tim, you reckon it might be your favorite as well. So Jeff, you're reckoning the rum. So Becca's 3. So 3. What is 3 again? 4.
3 is Teaninich.
All right, yeah. 3 and 6, yeah. Okay, so Dave, you're thinking that potentially the brandy as well. By the way, hi Dave, Dave-O. You well? Hope you and Caroline are well. No.
Yes, mate. We're away. We're just outside Elgin, so reception is poor at best. So I'm trying to keep quiet, which I'm sure a lot of people are very pleased about. But I had a lovely brandy from Little Brown Dog, which was about 28 years old, I think, 27, 28 years old. And that really blew my socks off. I was really impressed by that. So Teaninich is one of those drams that I don't know why, but I seem to always enjoy as well. So looking at the list, which I briefly looked at, I thought that might be, they're all made Linkwood. I don't know. But that Port Dundas was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I think that Little Brown Dog, if I remember rightly, that might have been the same distillery as the one we're trying tonight.
Happy days.
Distillery. I might be wrong on that. Anyway, thanks for joining anyway, Dave.
Thank you.
Grand. Okay. So I think Trevor, you weren't taken that much. Apologies, Rachel and George, if I appear to go with the people who don't particularly enjoy it as much, because we just like to hear what the outliers might feel. So if we all sat here and none of us really liked it, but one person really loved it, I'd be picking on the one person who loved it because I just like hearing it. Trevor, what did you think of that?
I think it was very nice. I think the answer about the 62%, it needed a little bit of water, but I'm afraid I agree with George. It's a breakfast whiskey, and I come to taste things not to taste breakfast whiskies, but to taste good whiskies. So that's why my level of palate, perhaps in this case, is a little bit higher. So I'm not overboard with relation to this one. Looking forward to the others, though.
Yeah, Trevor, I do hear you because I don't have a particularly well-educated palate, and I tend to go with big hitting sort of flavors, probably because I'm just not as subtle. So I don't know if that is kind of what you mean, but that's kind of how I feel often, is that I do look for those, big flavors. And whenever anybody says a breakfast dram, it kind of almost has not negative connotations, but it's not what I'm into whiskey. So I understand where you're coming from anyway.
Yeah.
If I might ask a question, I'm very sorry, I've been in and out for this first part because we've been getting ourselves sorted. Was there a price on the Port Dundas at all that's been mentioned?
£89.99. £89.99.
Did you get that, Dave?
I did. Thank you.
Oh. Was that right, Rachel, George? Is it 89.95 or something on your site? Oh
yeah.
All right.
About 90 quid, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Grand. Okie dokie.
I wonder if Stuart might have liked it if he hadn't known what it was before he tasted it. So if he tasted it completely blind, you hadn't told people what they all were, then Stuart might have liked it. You have this mentality about grain whiskey that it is a lesser liquid to malt whiskey, which is not true.
Right. Well, I suspect a fight's coming along now.
I agree with John. I've bought more bottles of grain than malt this year so far.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to respond to John. I've got some older Cambus that I really enjoy. Perhaps the emphasis in the grain, a fair comment, but I stand by the finish being short. That short as far as I'm concerned, John.
Right, fight over. Let's move on to Sam. Oh, go on, Rachel. You were going to say something there.
I was going to say, and I think that most people in this room will realise that you'll see a lot more grains from Indies in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Because as everyone knows, you know, the prices of casks, like I said before, if you haven't, you know, been buying them for years and years, are expensive. Also, there's a lot of really delicious grains that you can get. Like we've just bottled a 29-year-old North British, and it is absolutely stunning, honestly. And I would have that over any malt, actually. And John's right. There is a complete stigma when it comes to grains. People think, oh, you know, it's just destined for blends, it's shite. But actually, for me, I'm on the grain train, man. I'm firmly.
And 29-year-old North British would have been maize that produced it, not wheat.
Yeah.
Yeah, North British went over to wheat. What, 5-6 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Shall we go with sample number 2?
Sorry, John. What did you say? What the
5
cereal
more
would
to
have
go
been?
through.
Pardon?
Sorry, John. What did you say the cereal would have been?
Maize.
Maize, right? Okay.
Corn.
Thank you.
Because they used maize because the blender at Grouse liked it the way that the spirit came out on maize, and she fought latterly. Kirstine fought for several years to keep maize going through North British, and she eventually lost it, as I said, about 5-6 years ago, something like that.
And there's now no maize grain distillers in the north.
No, there aren't anymore. They're all using wheat.
Yeah.
Basically because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
You know, if we get into the situation with the way things have gone in Ukraine, because Ukraine produces 30% of the world's wheat, if we get into a situation where wheat prices go up, we can easily see most of the grain producers in Scotland moving back to maize.
Yeah.
I've had a discussion.
That could be a good thing.
Sorry? Pardon?
That could be a good thing.
It could be a good thing, absolutely. I've had a discussion recently with people about Karst Bridge, which moved over to continuous or grain production in 1852. And when Barnard went round there in 1886 or 1885, the grain was malted over a malting floor. So it wasn't cooked the way they do it nowadays because they didn't have the technology to do that. And they had a barley loft as well as a grain loft. And the barley loft was 100 feet by 40 feet. So storage of grain, it was pretty big. So they used a lot of barley, and basically they used what was cheapest at the time.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're moving back to that. If grain prices, as we're hearing from Ukraine and obviously Russia, are going through the roof.
Yeah. 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 Well, it could be a good thing. Hopefully, if they move back to corn, I wouldn't say no. Hi, Callum and Kate. You well?
Yes, thank you. We'll just catch up. Is that you in Dram 2, is it?
Yep, we've only just started on Dram 2. So dive in, guys. Dram number 2.
Perfect.
And is it now okay to ask you questions, Callum?
It's never okay to ask me questions, but you will anyway.
Right, so number 2, what are we thinking here, guys? Well, first of all, Rachel, George, do you want to kind of talk us through this wonderful dram?
Yeah, it's French Brandy. It is. It's essentially cognac, but for reasons we couldn't call it cognac because none of the paperwork said it was cognac. The Bureau of Cognac, like the SWA equivalent, the French equivalent of the SWA, they've changed the rules, so you can't bottle cognac outside of cognac anymore. But historically, a lot of cognac used to be aged in England and Scotland and bottled as such, but those laws changed a while ago. So this is from one cask. It's a French oak hogshead. It's 30 years old. It's 46.5%. What makes this very different to 99.999% of cognac that's out there is that this is a natural color and naturally flavored. Most cognac, if you are in a supermarket or an off license, or if you just have some on the shelf at home, you'll notice that cognac is incredibly dark. And that is owing almost entirely to a cocktail of components which collectively are known as bois. And bois is a mixture of caramel, an E150 artificial coloring, similar in taste to molasses, I suppose, and a sort of oak sawdust. And if you put that all into some kind of gloopy, podgy,
yeah, it doesn't look very nice, does it?
kind of thick, reduced, syrupy mulch, then what you then what you can do is you can either pour that into the casks, which immediately makes the spirit very, very dark, very, very caramelly, very, very sweet. Or you can disgorge your casks into a tank, pour it into the tank, leave it in there for a couple of days, a few days or a week, and then filter it out and bottle your cognac as a really, really dark liquid. We do actually have some other, we've got 2 casks of cognac, French brandy, that are so dark, it's similar to a pint of Guinness dark. It opaque, really. And I ordered a couple of samples, and the sample bottles had the bois floating in them. So
it was very appetizing.
It did not look it did not look particularly attractive.
No.
So we will have to make sure that those get filtered out when we bottle them, because you don't want to see that in your bottle.
No.
But this is a natural. Going back to the actual brandy in your hand, this is a naturally coloured, naturally flavoured brandy, 30 years old. I get that. For me, I was just looking. I kind of get this quite distinctive, like a light roast coffee. Also, kaffir lime. I get in this, which is not normally something I would
what you associate with brandy.
Yeah, and like grassy. It's quite grassy as well.
It is. Oh, I love it, but I'm biased.
Yada yada yada. Obviously,
I was going to say you've definitely sold me on the idea of buying cognac in supermarkets. That's for certain.
You're welcome.
Very appley as well. It seems almost on the cusp of being Calvados-like. For those of you who drink Calvados.
So, well, I have a feeling this might be a room splitter. I like it, but I'm kind of, every time I try it, I'm getting different flavor from it. Like it's weird. It's kind of every time I'm visiting it, it's like I'm trying something new.
There's almost a sourness to it for me.
Sour, right?
I like it more now.
Right. You didn't like it
I think
initially.
there's definitely power
Yeah,
of
but sometimes-
persuasion by what people are saying as well, though. So as people are saying things, I can smell it and taste it that I couldn't in the beginning.
It does. I'm like there. I've just tried it now, and it almost feels a bit rummy. like how does it do that?
Yeah, because you've got the rum.
Yeah. So come on. Well, what's everybody thinking? Does everyone want to dive in and tell us what their view is of this? Trevor, are you diving in, or are you just liking it straight away? You're liking it. Okay. Okay.
I'll dive in. Give it a go.
Go on, Dave.
Yeah, so I thought the nose was a lot more powerful than the palate, actually, than the taste. A lot thicker and kind of richer on the nose. I was getting like black treacle, and then I was getting like a metallic note, almost like the lid from the black treacle pot, with like stewed fruits almost catching, like almost like burned raisins on a Dundee cake, that kind of thing. And then on the taste, it was a lot lighter, a lot more brighter, bit herbal on the finish. There was some cranberries in there as well. And that actually coincides with Becca's notes with like the tart berry that she was getting there. And those, yeah, some more acidic fruits, but slightly drying and woody. But I absolutely loved it. I really loved it. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, but yeah, great, really great.
Are you a bit of a brandy fan, or is this relatively new spirit for you?
I've had a couple. I had an amazing Thompson Brothers one. They called it Early Landed, which is obviously a cognac. That was a 28-year-old, so probably the same as this, but this is lighter and brighter and has a little bit more acid in it. Yeah, this feels a little bit more. I absolutely love the Thompson Brothers one, but this feels a little bit more refined. Yeah, so I'm definitely not a brandy drinker, but I really want to be.
Fair enough. Yes, thanks, Dave.
Just really quickly, I think this really does really well if you just let it sit longer with air. It was quite muted at the beginning, but as time goes by, it just gets better and better. So
we definitely agree with Dave there. We didn't expect to like this. We're not brandy drinkers at all. But there's loads of sort of crisp red apples, lots of lime in there. You said treacle, Dave. We put down sort of dirty engine oil, but that same sort of, dirtiness in there. So yeah, really enjoying it, and surprised we're enjoying it.
Yeah, so I got a bit of petrol on the nose as well, actually. Yeah.
Bloody hell, Dave, you've got a cracking nose there, I tell you. I couldn't get that pebble.
He's showing it from
Yeah. Okay, quickly move on. Anybody else want to put in their 2 penneth on this one? Or shall we move straight away onto single malt?
Are you not asking for a vote?
Oh, thank you. You see, I put that test out, John, and you were the one. You were the one who reminded me. You don't actually think I actually remember any of this shit, do you?
Of course not.
So, shall we do the old thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down on this one? Trevor's straight in with a thumbs up. Oh, Brian, definite down. Oh, Steve L as well. Oh, Simon, what are you on this one?
I drink a lot of brandy when I'm abroad, so I really enjoy brandy. So
yeah,
this goes down very well.
Yeah. How does it compare with a lot of the other brandies that you've had?
It all depends on how big your wallet is, really, when it comes to brandy.
Yeah. Well, I guess
All the
that's the
good
same
stuff
as anything,
is
isn't
very
it?
expensive.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Cheers, Simon. Sorry, I missed some of your Becca and Ollie. Actually, is Ollie hiding?
You're on mute.
Hiding the same as Royston.
Ollie, why are you hiding? Are you feeling a bit shy?
Unmuted. Alas, my back isn't such that I can sit down, so I'm reclining on the sofa. He's very Roman.
Okay.
Bloody hell, you too.
I know.
I know, right? It's old age, isn't it?
Well, you've got till September to get yourself sorted out to make sure you're here, by the way. Okay, thank you. Right, well, I think that was the room splitter.
Well, what so far?
Rod, you definitely didn't like that one, no?
I started off thinking it was all right, but it just with each taste got worse.
I think it just got too sweet for you. You're not a sweet person.
There you go. And what about you, Royston? You liked it?
So to start off with, I was a bit. There was the aftertaste I didn't like.
You're hiding. You couldn't ignore it and see
I'm
it.
just like sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Lord. Yeah, I didn't like the aftertaste initially, but then it grew on me a lot.
Yeah.
I actually quite enjoyed it.
What's the Rachel, George? What's the price point on this one?
Our recommended selling point retailers is 103.
103. Okay. Okay.
Thanks.
Not bad. Okay. Right. Well, thank you for that. So, shall we move on to dram number 3?
Already ahead.
Already ahead.
And that is lovely.
Okay. So this is the Teaninich.
That's very nice.
Well, Rachel really enjoys this one straight away. Actually, I'm still nosing that brandy, and that the nose.
That's why I said
So the nose, actually the nose off the grain is so good, and in every glass, it's amazing. Anyway, sorry. So number 3. So Rachel, George, what's the story behind this one?
So this is it's a Teaninich, which is a Highland single malt, as I'm sure most of you are aware. It's 14 years old. I bought the cask when it was 12. I ordered a sample, and actually it was perfectly delicious as it was. Pardon?
I was going to say, so why did you bother doing anything with it?
Because it was my cask and I wanted to do something with it. So,
fair enough, fair enough.
So, but I've always been a fan of red wine finishes. I know not everyone is, but
No,
I
they're
am.
not.
And this was the first cask that I'd purchased where I said to myself, do you know what? Instead of selling this cask on, I'm going to keep it and one day I'll bottle it. So for me, it has a sentimental value. And then so I bought an empty red wine barrique from Speyside Cooperage. The cask had been used to age Chateau Margaux in Bordeaux. Chateau Margaux being a very fancy la-di-da, extremely expensive red wine from France, and left it in there for 20 months. I checked on it 19. A couple of 19 months, I beg your pardon, and 3 weeks and
29 days.
Yeah, I checked on it a few times over the course of the finish, and I just thought it was absolutely fine. It's still got, for me with Teaninich, I think I always feel like Teaninich is quite a malt forward spirit. It's quite an unusual distillery. It's it's a pack horse. It's a Diageo pack horse distillery. The vast majority goes into Johnny Walker for Diageo, and then that which is released as a single malt is almost entirely from indie bottlers. And it's also quite strange in that it's only one of 2 whiskey distilleries in Scotland that doesn't have a mash tun. And instead of having a mash tun, it's got a very large piece of Belgian brewing equipment called a mash filter. You have to look into it to really understand it properly, but it's a wildly different way of extracting fermentable sugars from your grist. And perhaps that's why Teaninich has a more malt forward flavor profile. Maybe not, I don't know. With regards to the finish, I think the finish is not overpowering, and I'm really happy with it, which is why I decided it was good for bottling.
It's very juicy.
It's a nice combination of kind of your red fruits, strawberry laces. For anyone who knows some confectioneries, it's kind of starburst and purple chewits.
Opal fruits.
Opal fruits. Mixed with a wonderful maltiness. I think the malt still very much comes through. We have little drawings on all of our bottles. Rachel just flashed this up. So we were originally going to write Chateau Margaux finish, but the Scotch Whisky Association advised us against using a Chateau's brand on our bottle because it's a bit like you're piggybacking. Also, it's their brand,
which is fair enough, really.
So a bit cheeky. So we just called it a Bordeaux finish. However, there is a subtle drawing on the front of a well-known chateau.
Very sly from us. Very sly.
And Margot might have taken legal action against you as well.
Well, exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's not. It doesn't look perfectly identical, the drawing, to Chateau Margaux. So there is.
There's like a couple of chimneys.
There's a degree of plausible deniability.
So I'm curious, George. You said that when you tried the cask originally, it was perfectly delightful before you did anything with it. Are you? I mean, I'm pretty sure that this is a silly question, but you must be pretty chuffed with what you did to the original cask. But I'm just curious, did you keep any of the old liquid back just to do a kind of comparison?
No, I didn't. I mean, no, I didn't. I did have a 200 ml sample when it was 12 years old.
Oh, well, you scoffed that.
But I just drank that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I must
What's
say,
200 ml between friends?
Well, exactly right. I must say what the fib guys are doing is really nice and transparent.
Yeah. Well, when we were at the Fife Festival, what they did was pretty good. Yeah, the fact that they did the before and after. But I guess it depends. You know, it depends on how much you've got to play with and how much you want to be able to kind of send out and make sure you've got as a release. You know, that immediately halves the number of, you know, bottles that you have available of the finished product, isn't it, really? You might have, well, you've got 2 lots of finished product, but it's half the amount, isn't it, for both? So anyway, okay. So what's everybody thinking of this Teaninich? Who should we pick on? Or is somebody going to volunteer to put their head above the trenches and give an explanation? Brian, I saw that quickly there.
I completely missed in the lineup that this was a wine cask finish, and for the last 6 to 12 months, wine casks has just been where my palate is, and this is fantastic, really, really nice.
Cheers, Brian. Okay. Anybody else want to dive in? Franchi, what are you thinking? I'm going to pick on you because you're new. This is your first NEWAS tasting. So dive in. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm loving it. This is a favourite so far of the evening. Beautifully fruity. I love. There's a slight kind of burnt matchstick on the nose, but that juicy red fruit Bordeaux cask finish coming through right on the palate. Lovely and Moorish, very, very beautiful long finish for me. And yeah, super, super juicy and a lovely dram.
Yeah. And dare I ask, which is your favorite so far out of the 3 that you've had?
So far, this is the favorite. This is definitely number 1. Number 2 is the Port Dundas, and followed by the apple juice brandy that we had that was very, very fruity. But This is fantastic, fantastic whiskey.
Good. Thanks. Cheers, Frenchie.
I'm hoping I
Andy?
can get a bottle. Where do I buy a bottle of this, George? Where do I get a bottle of this?
Yeah, what's the price point as well?
So this one is 77 quid. That's our recommended retail price for people. We've been a little bit slow out of the starting blocks with getting it in. We've kind of concentrated more on getting it behind bars to start off with, just because we wanted to get it out there, I guess, and get as many people trying it as possible. So far, the stockists that we've got are House of Malt in Carlisle, so relatively local to us Northerners. In Edinburgh, there's Cork and Cask. There is, who else is it? Jeffrey Street Whiskey and Scars. Who else is there?
We're working on others.
We're working on others. Spirit of Alba in Glasgow are taking us on. There's Milrose of Soho as well.
But they haven't put them
But they haven't put them online because they're slow as hell. But there will be others. There's Tindrum as well are interested, so they'll be around. They'll be around.
Yeah.
Spirit of Alba is Kirkintilloch, not Glasgow.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, close enough though. My Scotland bloody geography shit. I need to get better at it.
I'm just looking
You can't say that.
at just looking on House of Malt, and they're already out of Linkwood and Fort Dundas.
All right. There you go. Actually, have you talked to Ewan at Robertson's?
No, I haven't, but he's on the list. He's on the hit list.
Yeah, I think he'd be interested.
To be honest, we didn't want to like completely just go hammer and tongs at it, and we don't want to sell it out straight away. Not that, would necessarily expect to. It's just, we're new. I mean, we've only been launched for 6 weeks. We've been talking about it and boring everyone to tears with it for bloody ages, but we've only officially been out for 6 weeks. And so we'd like to have it around to talk about, do you know what I mean? And then there's Andy Hurst of Whiskey Tree as well. I've just remembered that chap. Lovely gent, if you don't already know him.
Yeah, well, Andy's actually coming to the Indie Festival as well. He's going to have a stand. He's going to be one of the exhibitors for the first time.
Brilliant.
I'm saying first time. It's only the second Indie Festival, but you know what I mean.
He's a brilliant chap.
There's also Shane at Woodwinters.
Okay.
Thanks, John. Cheers.
And also Matt at the Good Spirits Company in Glasgow.
In Glasgow, yeah.
Well, Tim Roberts as well.
Who?
Tim Roberts at Whiskey Online.
We've just today been at, the Scottish Gantry. We're actually in Stirling right now. They've just had their Alhambra Whiskey Festival in Stirling, so we've just been at that. And they're opening a new shop in Edinburgh. And I'm not entirely sure where the other one is, but it's somewhere in Scotland, obviously.
It's Mulgai.
Thanks, John. You are the font of knowledge.
if you're looking at it, you would pronounce it Mulgavi.
Mulgavi.
I'm not even going to try it.
I've been around a long time.
Good stuff. Right, so shall we do thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down for the Teaninich? Let's go.
Well, there's somebody said.
Oh, hang on, let me just check. Oh, Neil, I'm coming to you. Steve T, yeah. Trevor, what were you? Were you a thumbs up on that one? Yeah, okay. Andy, what are you thinking of this one? Okay. Now, are you expecting this to beat the rum?
I don't know. I love that one, and you missed the drama because I spilled half of it on the floor before.
Oh dear.
I'm absolutely devastated sitting here.
Oh dear.
But no,
Well, Neil, we've got to come to you. Neil, why is this?
Well, I went sideways. Just more so, it's my least favourite of the three so far. Lovely taste. There's nose on it, but it was a bit too dry for us. That was it. And I can't just love absolutely everything, can I?
Well, you've got to put in a sideways just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
So
We
it's
can't
not I didn't
do
like it. It was just I liked it less than the other two.
Yeah, we can't let George and Rachel get too big of a head, you know, like if they're, you know, if we're all like, you know, thumbs up for all of them, you know. Anyway, right, okay, so I think on the whole, that wasn't a room splitter, except for the odd sideways. I think that was well received. Okay.
Carl, get a case.
Get a case, yeah.
We'll sort out the rest of the logistics after that.
Actually, on that, Rachel, George, I take it you don't sell then direct. It is all via retailers. Is that right?
Well, that's not strictly true. We do sell direct to businesses.
Right.
Now, it's up to you how you want to justify that, what kind of business you've got. No, it's true. And where we live in Leith, we live in like this ex-pub, and we've got a lot of storage. So we do actually have quite a lot of duty paid stock in our flat, basically, in this very cold cellar. And yeah, we can sell directly to people, and in fact we have been doing the on-trade element ourselves. So
Right.
a lot of bars in Edinburgh have got our stuff. Glasgow we're working on, but it is in the pot still. It's in where else is it in? It's in the George Hotel, which was a nice one. Just in a couple of places, but we can sell direct as long as you've got a business.
Yeah. Okay.
You did set NEWAS up as a registered charity, didn't you, Carl?
I need to sort that out, don't I?
Of course you do.
Okay, grand. Right. Well, shall we go on to number 4, not 6? I think there might be some people who have actually like just. Oh, they have left. You've left a couple of bits. Yeah. You haven't.
Well behaved.
All right. Okay. So dram number 4. So George, Rachel, what are we about to try?
This is sometimes it's my favorite and sometimes it's my joint favorite. Today it's my joint favorite. It's a Linkwood. So essential, wonderful Speyside distillery. It's 12 years old and has spent the entire 12 years maturing in a first fill Tokaji wine barrel. As far as I am aware, and we've both done quite a bit of research into this, nobody has ever done a single malt Scotch whiskey or any Scotch whiskey that's been fully matured, not finished, but fully matured in a first fill or any Tokaji wine barrel. This is
never seen a full maturation. No, seen a few finishes, but not full.
Yeah, exactly. There's been a few finishes. For the purists, this is sacrilegious.
Yeah.
This is too much wine to have in your whiskey.
Yeah.
Personally, and as I mentioned earlier, I love wine cask matured single malt. I spent a couple of years working as a distiller at Starwood in Melbourne, Australia, and 99% of their casks filled are wine casks. And I just love the flavors that are imparted on the spirit from wine casks. In fact, I prefer wine casks over sherry nearly every time. So yeah, this is a very strange. It's a unicorn cask. We did nothing to.
I'd love to say we did, but
this cask. Yeah, I would love to say that that we actually had a big impact on the liquid in this glass, but the fact is we absolutely haven't. We were offered the cask from one of our suppliers, and it had never been regauged.
We bit their hand off, didn't we? Really?
I got an email through, and I replied, and I thought that's not good enough. So I sent a text. That's not good enough. I sent a WhatsApp, a Facebook message. I sent a carrier pigeon. I was calling. I need to get and we got our hands on it. So it had just been left, and nobody had tasted it. Nobody had done anything. They just filled it in 2010 and then left it, and then it probably passed through a hand or two, which is why it wasn't the cheapest cask for us to buy. But on paper, just seeing that, wow, it's been sitting since 2010 in a first fill Tokai wine barrel. For those of you who don't know, Tokai, spelt Tokaji, it is Hungarian sweet, generally sweet wine.
You can get dry as well.
They make a small amount of dry wine in Tokai, but it's generally, think of like it's a Hungarian equivalent of Sauterne. And this is a chewy whiskey. It is thick, it is viscous, it is dense. It's 58.0%, and it's, for me, it's actually, I've tried a lot of whiskies, and this I put up there among some of the best I've ever had. But that's just my preference. I love wine casks. I love Linkwood.
For me, like, and I understand exactly what your comment is about the purist kind of side of things, and that is that I don't think this has got much, if any, Linkwood profile left in it.
No.
But for me, I'm not, you know, like, I don't hang my hat on wanting to get a profile every time I try a whiskey, and for me, this is.
Carl, what would you say Linkwood's profile is, though?
Well, yes, in many respects. I mean, there's a lot of Linkwood out there in indie bottlings, and nearly, or I would say at least 60%, 70% of it, maybe, you know, a very high proportion of every Linkwood I've ever tried as an indie has had some sort of finish to it. So actually describing what Linkwood's profile might be, I'm not entirely sure, even though I've had quite a few Linkwoods before. You know, I would probably struggle to really fully identify the profile. So that's probably why, another reason why I don't care in some respects that the profile's not there. It doesn't feel almost like whiskey in some respects because it's so heavily matured in that cask. But for me, it's really lovely.
How about that? Yeah, sorry.
The apple character's still there. Apple is an endemic character you always find in Linkwood. You always find that fresh, green-skinned character. I worked for Lowe Robertson, and Lowe Robertson were the licensees for Linkwood until Guinness took over in '86, and I exported the brand. We did a lot of things. We tried at one point, believe it or not, to get it called Linkwood Glenlivet, and obviously the SWA didn't like that very much. Put it that way. And Sir Ficken Street didn't like it either. But there is an inherent character of apple in there on the nose, and it's there as a stewed apple character. It's there on the palate as well. The finish, you've got, obviously the Tokai has made a huge difference. Added chocolate and oak and what's that? I can't read it. Cloves and on writing. You're coming through medium sweet. It's probably a bit sweeter than Linkwood is normally, but not really all that much sweeter. The wood has not overpowered it, so you're not picking up the chewy tannin elements from the wood, but the character of Linkwood's still there in the middle of it. Did you like that?
I'm just saying, what was your background in whiskey? Because you seem to know bloody loads. So I was just explaining that you know, you just talk the good talk. Cheers, John. Right, okay, well, and actually, John, now that you've said the green apples, I definitely picked that out now. And I don't know if it's just because your sense of suggestion is so strong. The force is strong in you, John. Anybody else have anything else to add on this one? Who the first time that they saw Tokai spelt and just on the side of a bottle or whatever thought it was Japanese. I'll hold my hand up. I genuinely did.
Sounds Japanesey.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does. It's terrible.
I'm just going to apologise right now to all the people I've said had a bit of water and it's killed us for them. I've gone back to the bit that I saved without the water. For me, adding a couple of drops of water, opened it up on the nose, but I was actually taken away from it on the mouth.
Yeah.
Well, we just had that debate, a very quick debate about whether or not to add water, and I think half the room said no fecking way, I'm not adding anything into this. Anyway.
I've probably shown this before, but this is what I used to add the water. I think. drop at a time, just in case.
But
Steve
the finish is great. The finish just goes on and on.
Yeah.
You know, the three we've had before don't have a finish like that, but the finish on this goes on and on and on.
It does. Yeah. Yeah.
I did guess this would be my favourite, and it is.
And it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far.
So far, yes. Yeah. Steve Laidler, what are you thinking? Because you've been quiet tonight.
I know I'm struggling to get a word in edgeways with John. I keep trying to jump in, and John's, what can you do? But
I'll go on mute.
It's a cracker, this one, isn't it? I mean, I guessed I would like the Linkwood because I like the Linkwood spirit, and I don't get a lot of that, as I think you said earlier. But there's a lot going on with that. I think it's quite complex. You know, I get John's apples. I think there's a bit of plum in there, a lot of red berries. It's a lovely dram. Of everything we've had tonight, this is the one I would buy. I'm working out where Rachel and George live. I'm in Edinburgh quite a lot. I'm going to come up with something. I'm going to make one of those business cards on one of those machines. I'll be sorted.
Yeah, but you've seen his face now, Rachel and George. I would run a mile the minute he knocks on the door.
Yes, Rachel and George. I'm in Alva, so I'm only 6 miles away from you.
Rachel, a NEWAS discount for businesses, is there not?
Any business. It's up to you how you justify it yourself. But any business we can sell to,
if you've got a business, then
as long as you're not selling it on.
As long as you're not selling it on, because then you would obviously need the right licensing to do that. But
yes.
We've got no problem with
if it's a gift for clients. You know what I mean?
It can be a gift for a client, a supplier, or a customer, and
right.
So anyone who's got a limited company or a business, we can just invoice them, and obviously they get trade price.
So Glencoe Limited will be in touch very soon. Yeah. Yeah. So Tim,
Yeah.
Five, you've not said much tonight. What do you think of that one?
It's all right. I thought that was delicious. I really do. It's so fruity, and since John put it in my head, I can smell the apples now.
Like you said, for every one of us. Absolutely.
Obviously weak-willed and weak-minded. So no, I think that really is lovely. I mean, I've tried the Glenallachie did the Tokaji finish, which was good, but this is exceptional. Well done. And I thought the Port Dundas was delicious. I enjoyed the cognac, and the Teaninich was brilliant as well. So my firm will be putting in an order.
All of a sudden, there's lots of northeast-based companies. Well,
I do have a limited company in my name, so I can put an order in.
Do we just email Tim and then we're sorted out direct with Tim? I'll go and collect them, Tim. That's not a problem.
Let's just point out that there is no resale. No resale going on.
No resale. No resale.
resale. No. Anyway, right. before we get ourselves into trouble, shall we do? Did we do the thumbs up, thumbs side? I have a feeling it's rather pointless doing the thumbs up for this one because I have a feeling I haven't heard one bad thing about it so far.
I've got a new favourite.
Oh.
I've got a new
Look
favourite.
behind you, Carl.
Yeah, he's joking. Catherine's not. We'll check. Let me see. Oh, John, that is so not you. No, I know. Okay, right. Becca, what was yours? Were you liking this one? Oh, yeah, okay. Simon, I didn't spot your. Yeah, okay. And Steve T. Oh. Bloody hell, have we actually got pretty much other than one person?
Sorry.
Is that everybody going with a thumbs up on this one? Andy, Jeff, and Davo, we can't see what you're doing, but
have to ask Catherine what you think.
yeah, I'm gonna, but
That's mean. Why would we apply that?
but Jeff, Andy, Davo, any deviation there? Are you all like thumbs up? I'm just checking with you. Andy?
If there is some left, I'll send the business details up and I'll buy some.
So that was definitely a thumbs down from Andy.
From me, Carl, I think it's a beautiful. I wonder how much we're getting of the spirit, though. And I know that's we're getting technical and bullshitty. It is a wonderful dram. I would happily buy a bottle of this. But I wonder how much of the Linkwood we can taste as opposed to the Tokaji.
Yeah, I guess then that was that initial discussion. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not that bothered, and like you're saying, you know, like I'd buy a bottle of this absolutely because it is so lovely, and I'm not that bothered whether it's Linkwood.
Sorry, you missed 2 steps there.
That was Davo. Davo.
Yeah, I think. I mean, you know, it is good when you have a balance between cask and distillery
and spirit.
But sometimes, as long as the liquid's great, if you've lost an essence of the distillery, doesn't really matter if the liquid is just scrumptious. That's
a good question. That's a good.
Distillery character is based on congeners, flavor compounds, and if the combination of flavor compounds sums up a scrumptious liquid in the glass, then I'd say,
who cares?
Who cares? You know?
Absolutely, George. I do agree with you, which is why I said I'd probably buy a bottle of this. It is wonderful. It's also interesting. I'm not, again, as you said,
because I need to go back to the potatoes.
Who needs to go back to the potatoes? I'd like some potatoes. I'm starving.
I've not seen a full-term Tokaji before. Like you said, you did research it. Not that I've done any research. I've never seen one. It's always a finish of some description, and normally for not that long either, because it's additive in such a short space of time. This is a wonderful dram. As I said, I'm just being technical and probably bullshitty for bullshitty reasons.
It's a really good train of thought. It really is.
But as I said, the core characters of Linkwood are in there.
John.
You all picked up the apples, the core element of Linkwood. So some of the frills around the outside are being hidden by the Tokaji cask, but that's it.
John, I would say
whether why did Linkwood put the new make into that cask, or maybe did somebody else put the new make into that cask?
I think somebody else put the new make into the cask.
Yeah, Diageo wouldn't have.
No. It's too imaginative for Diageo.
Yeah, exactly.
Allegedly.
So I'm just curious, John, do you reckon you'd have identified that as Linkwood if you were doing it blind tasting? Because I sure as hell wouldn't have.
Blind tasting, I would have put it somewhere between Elgin and Dufton. You know, that line of distilleries. So Glenelgin, Manachmore, somewhere around there. So I might have put it at Linkwood.
Bloody hell, John. We're gonna have to do more blind tastings, aren't we?
So just a heads up, folks. Later on this year, I'm planning on buying some new make spirit from Linkwood and some Tokaji barrels. So in another 12 years' time, we'll have release number 2.
You're on.
I appreciate your setting up. I did manage to hear the kind of potted history, as I think Carl said. Maybe could you explain maybe the thinking behind the bottles? And the reason why I say that is because glass these days is extremely expensive. And I can't believe the bottles themselves are that easy to source, nor necessarily that cheap. It's a great. I think it's a fantastic. I think it's a great brand, and I love it. But I just wondered why you didn't kind of go a little bit more basic, as most others do.
I guess, I mean, it was more me that was in charge of what it looks like. And I was thinking about, you know, what indies are doing now and how to kind of set us apart in a way. And actually, the cost of, say, tall rounds wasn't that much less than our bottles that we've got. So the bottle that we've got here, it's actually a gin bottle. It's from Europe. I think it's an Italian company. What the hell they're called? Brunel, maybe. I can't remember. I've been drinking.
German.
No, it's not German.
Okay.
It's Italian. Anyway, Miss Guzzi. I'm afraid the stoppers are from China, which I know isn't, you know, people kind of grimace at a bit. We initially wanted to get, I don't know if you guys know Vinolock. They're the ones that do the glass stoppers on top of Waterford stoppers. But for me, and I guess when we were in Australia, we used to drink in this this Mexican bar, and I noticed like a lot of the bottles of tequila and mezcal had these beautifully like ornate bottle stoppers, and it always really caught my attention. And I thought, right, if we're going to be doing this, I don't care necessarily what the bottle itself is like, as long as it's practical, i.e. not too wide that it's going to take up loads of bar space, for example, or not too tall that it still fits on a shelf. But I really wanted to have a unique stopper, like Blanton's, for example. When we went to Vinolock and asked them for a quote, they were quoting us between £7 and £11 per unit. And obviously that is completely, you know, we couldn't have done that. So I think we got them all, I think we got 6,000 of them from China, and I think they cost 31 pence each. But obviously that's before all of the import and stuff. And yeah, I don't know, like, I think they look pretty cool. Like I mean, unknowingly, I've kind of made it look like Penhaligons. And it doesn't really help the name either, Fragrant Drops. It kind of sounds and looks like a perfume. But we were going for a apothecary kind of style bottle.
And it looked like the big brandy bottles you find, like the Victorian drinks cabinet type thing.
And like
I would feel bad getting rid of a bottle.
Well, we're hoping that people will use them as water bottles.
Keep them, use them for olive oil. Or
anything,
water,
you know what I mean?
More whiskey.
Yeah. I mean, we're not.
Caroline and I were in the George last weekend, and we actually saw your bottles proudly in the dead centre of the bar. So I said that we had a taste of it this week. I didn't kind of. We didn't go down the route of trying them because I thought I'm not going to cheat on Carl because I'm sure I'd never hear the end of it. But thank you though for the explanation. I just wondered why you went down the route. I know that it's a stylistic choice, and I think it stands out. It looks wonderful. I just wondered why
it wasn't more expensive, Dave.
Yeah,
it honestly wasn't much more expensive to get that bottle.
The price really isn't that much different. You know, I mean, we're talking kind
per
of
unit. Pennies,
yeah, really.
So what the thing is, like the big drawback to not using tall round is a lot of the warehouses don't. They'll stock, you know, kind of a lot of basic kind of off the shelf bottles.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't stock this one.
None of them do.
And in fact, actually, this bottle that we originally got, it was a Spanish company, and they ended up Estal, and they ended up like shutting the UK office down. And then all the stock that I placed, they were like, nope, sorry, they've got flaws. They didn't. They just sold on our
Yeah.
stuff basically. So, and at that point, our stoppers were on the sea. So I had to very quickly find a replacement bottle that had the kind of same spec, which thankfully I managed to. But yeah, the world of glass at the moment, and just general supplies like labels, paper, everything is so. And it's not only because of Brexit. I don't know why it is, but it's very hard at the moment. Hence, this being about 6 months late coming out, because we were ready to go mid last year.
Yeah.
I just assume I made an assumption, an incorrect one, that given it's a non-standard bottle, I just assumed it would cost a lot more. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
The word came out last week that the French wine producers are having difficulty sourcing bottles because in Illinois, OI, has ceased production in France. Their energy costs in 2021 were £15 million. In 2022, they were £75 million. So basically, they're shut down because of that. in Illinois, here in Iowa, is still in production, is still producing bottles for Johnny Walker, etc. But they've been hit badly by energy prices as well. So there's a problem with bottles at the moment. I know that an Argentinian producer has had to put wine in green, a rosy wine in green bottles instead of white bottles because of supply, full stop. And I'm fairly sure that a lot of the French are going to do that as well. So if you're able to access something now, hang on to that source, put it that way.
So on that note, shall we do the old, did we do the thumbs up? I can't even, I'm losing track now.
Somebody
oh yes, somebody went sideways.
I went sideways, I'm sorry.
So can you explain?
Only because in theory I should love this one, in that it's wine cask and I love the single malt. For me it's very similar palate, only the fact is that it's just a bit too peppery, too spiky for me, so that it's overtaking everything else and that I'm not enjoying all the nuances that I would normally enjoy, which is a shame, but
I do
otherwise
think
it's lovely. I want to love it.
Yeah, I do think this is a bit full on, isn't it? I mean, I don't know whether anybody would disagree, but this is definitely one that's going to make you sit up and go, whoa. What?
Oh yeah, definitely,
Definitely hits you. Yeah.
Yeah, I should love this one, and it's really interesting in the fact that it is matured in a wine cask, which is.
I'm glad that you've identified the fact that you should love it.
I should love it. I should, and yeah, I don't. I'm sorry. But yeah, no, it from its perspective should be lovely, and I think if I hadn't already been pre-treated to very sweet ones, I think I would be liking it more.
Yeah. Okay.
So if I had that one first, I'd be like, oh yes, please.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. Right. So, and on that, let's go to dram number 5, which is going to be a bit of, again, I suspect this could be a room splitter, but we'll see. Dram number 5 being the rum.
So George has just fecked off. I don't know. So I'll introduce it. This is an 18-year-old rum from the Diamond Distillery in Guyana. I'm afraid to say that we don't know much about it. We don't know how long it's been aged in Guyana and how long it's been aged in Scotland. All we know is that it's pretty delicious, in our opinion.
To make an educated guess, I would say that it has been aged for at least half of its 18 years in Guyana.
Oh my God.
The reason I say that is, one, there's a huge amount of wood influence.
Yeah.
2, there's been quite a bit of evaporation.
Yeah.
I suspect the company who was ultimately responsible for importing it, doing the initial importation, and I contacted them with the hopes of getting some additional information on the rum, other than it's from Diamond Distillery and it's 18 years old and it's cask number 63. Because a lot of rum geeks, we're all whiskey geeks. Rum geeks are geekier than whiskey geeks.
Oh my God, aren't they just?
It's a whole other upper echelon of geekiness.
Yeah.
No way, can't be possible. Can't be possible.
Come on, Brian.
So I tried to find out, was there any other information, and it was just a dead end road. Well, so I did try, because a number of
Well, it's good to know. It's good to know.
Serious rum drinkers, rum geeks, rum aficionados had asked me and said, "Oh, you know, what type of still was it distilled in at Diamond, and when did it arrive in Scotland, and what was the rotation number in the distillery?" And all these very fair questions, but like I couldn't answer any of them, unfortunately.
No. We did get photos of the cask end, but that didn't really give us any information.
It's well, I mean, you've got the liquid in your glass. It's a very dark rum. This is the only one of our bottles. So of all of our bottles, there's just a couple of lines at the bottom of each one, and that says bottled, unchill filtered, undiluted and uncoloured from a single cask in Scotland by Keble Cask Company Limited of Queen Charlotte Street, Leith, Scotland, and then product of wherever. And this is the only one where the word uncoloured has been omitted, because actually
we don't know.
Some Diamond Spirit, not all, but some Diamond Spirit, they actually add a little bit of molasses to the spirit before they put it into the cask. Bit cheeky, in my opinion. I mean, so I wasn't certain. I mean, this has a huge amount of wood influence, irrespective of the colour. But to err on the side of caution, I decided to just not say it was uncoloured, because I couldn't 100% guarantee it. I do know that there's a huge amount of wood influence on the spirit. In particular, that there's and flavor wise, I mean, I spent about an hour and a half at home, just relaxing on the sofa watching TV with a large glass of this, and it's for me, it's the most complex rum I've ever tasted. But I sat with it for an hour, and I plonked it on the radiator to warm it up.
I know, but George, how much experience do you have with drinking the kind of older, more kind of premium rums? Because I know that I don't.
Compared with whiskey, very, very little.
Yeah.
The whiskey club I used to work at in London, we had normally about 15 or 20 bottles of rum.
Diplomatico, that kind of.
Yeah, but then also some of you may be familiar with an independent bottler called Blackadder. Now, for those of you who are, and those of you who aren't, the rums that they do are just stellar. They're really some of the best rums I've ever tasted have been from independent bottlings from Blackadder. Anyway, so I relaxed at home, and this is a really deep, very complex. It's
very
kind of
complex.
I would say that it's kind of a shame that we're just kind of having it in a tasting, because this alone you can just sit with and nurse, and it is the slower you drink it and the longer you take, it is super deep. It's a very, very, very complex, deep, rich rum.
There's 148 bottles of this. Now, you mentioned that a lot of the liquid had kind of gone. How big was the original cask? Was it? I think right. So, and a lot of it had just gone to the angels, had it?
Yeah. I'm just looking at it now. So, just over 50% of the entire cask was gone.
Wow.
And that's evaporation. So there were 103.6 bulk liters out of 200.
Wow.
Which would point to it being aged for the most of its time in Guyana, because you would never get that sort of evaporation rate in Scotland.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had a leaky cask, then yeah, for sure. Then you'd lose 50% of the cask, within the first 6 months, because it's got a leak or it's been stored on its side where the bunghole is, the side of the barrel. If it's palletized, then that often does happen. But what's everyone's thoughts?
Yeah. Anybody want to dive in on this one? Oh, Stuart, straight in with a double thumbs up.
I want to convert it to a rum
Brilliant.
appreciation society.
Brilliant stuff. Absolutely brilliant. By far the best dram of the night.
Wow.
Yep.
So
Just
you're sitting on the fence there then, Stuart?
I am, yeah. Yeah. I'm Mike Powell over the fence. I'm gone. I'm gone, mate. No, it's lovely stuff. It's interesting, like kind of talking about some of the kind of whiskies and finishes and maturations. The more and more I kind of think about how it's going with whiskey, it's almost like the spirit's a material. It's like it doesn't matter what distillery it's from. It's what cask it's in and how it's finished, and if you're Ardmore, how much sherry's in the cask. I do find that, Brian. I know you're shaking your head, but I find it more and more. It's just like it's almost like the base spirit. It doesn't matter. And that seems to be for me. That seems to be how the market's going. Brian, very interested to hear the counter to that.
Yeah.
But I'm only calling it as I see it.
Stuart, everybody's entitled to their opinion, mate. If you want to think that, that's fine, and I'm sure lots of other people do as well.
I do.
It is a bit of a mixture. My favourite distillery is Loch Lomond, and they make their spirit in a couple of different ways. They've got 3 different still types, but most of their spirit goes into refill bourbon casks, which have very little influence on the final whiskey.
Yeah.
But then when you try the whiskey, they all taste completely different. So, for example, I don't know if you've tried them, but Loch Lomond do 3 different 12-year-olds. A standard one that's slightly peated, an Inchmurrin that's very fruity, an Inchmone that's heavily peated, and that's all off the spirit because they've just been in refill bourbon casks.
Not disputing that at all. Sorry, not disputing that at all. Sorry, Trevor. Sorry to interrupt. Going in popularity, going in what's hot, going in what we see in tastings, Brian. And it's cask finish. It's 12 months, 18 months. It's cask. It's not the raw spirit that we see. And I totally understand why independent bottlers go to that. Well, ultimately, it's to stand out from the crowd, isn't it? But for me, to go back to the rum, because as I say, the standout dram for me. It's funny. I know what you mean, Rachel. It's like the kind of the rum aficionados have another level of is it been turned 5 degrees or 8 degrees and 360 degrees every day? It's proper anally retentive, but it's bloody good stuff. I know that I'm being over in saying that, but it's just because rum's still really, I've been into whiskey for a number of years, but rum's relatively new and it's so fresh and just different. But that's bloody good stuff. I buy that in a second. Yep.
I mean, I'm gonna jump in on and say, Stuart, that I understand exactly where you're coming from, because I suspect that Brian and a lot of us here tonight are actually in the minority. And we are perhaps looking for that distillery profile more than perhaps a lot of consumers of whiskey are. So I suspect that Stuart might be onto something when he suggests that the market itself doesn't care whether it's a Linkwood or a Teaninich or an Ardmore. They're actually just trying the liquid and going, they don't care whether it's rum or what. Well, oh, sorry, they don't care whether it's what distillery it comes from. They're actually more bothered about the finish or how dark it is or whatever. You know, that's what often sells bottles now. It's how dark it is, or you know, how interesting the cask finish might be. They're not necessarily bothered whether it came from a Linkwood. And I suspect you might be onto something, Stuart. But I understand where Brian's coming from. For us guys who are perhaps maybe a little bit more interested in what the original spirit is, it is still relatively important. But it's not the overall riding thing behind whether you buy that bottle or not.
Can I?
We are a very small part of the market. We are the geeks at the top end of the market, and therefore, you know, Joe Public goes out there. They buy it because the label is pretty. The fact that Johnny Walker sells so much, the fact that Jack Daniels sells so much, tells you that Joe Public does not know what they're drinking. So therefore, when we are able to differentiate between Glenelgan and Linkwood, you know, we are literally at the top end of the market, and you know, we are serious geeks is probably the best way to put it. And the fact that we can differentiate between malt whiskey and you know, a rum and a cognac or whatever tells you exactly that. And it's a lot of you don't appreciate how high up the ladder you are, but the fact that you're involved in something like this tells you you are heading up towards the top of that geek ladder.
Somebody holding the ladder. Who's holding the ladder?
I have to say though, from a point of view of someone who's putting something in a bottle as well, I don't think any, and I think I've said this on a previous tasting that you've had as well, I don't think any bottler or distillery will ever set out, well, actually no, I'll speak just from my point of view. We've never set out to just put things in bottles willy-nilly, although George did say that with the Teaninich. But you've got to think about the wood quality that we sometimes get. You know, when a cask comes to us a lot, and we have samples, and it's 12, 14-year-old, and it is like water. You know, and the distillery character is there, but it tastes like shit. Do you know what I mean? It really does.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll quickly chime in and just to follow on from what Rachel's already saying, that for those of us who've had the joy of an experience of sampling cask quality going backwards over the last 10 years or say 30 years of, you know, you're trying a 10-year-old from a well-established malt distillery. Try the 10-year-old that they brought out 30 years ago, then 25 years ago, then 20 years ago, then 15 years ago, and compare them all today to today. The quality of wood that's being used, and this is just across Scotland. This is not. I'm not picking on any one distillery.
Yeah.
But as a whole, there are thousands of casks that are filled every week in Scotland, thousands and thousands. And these casks, they should be sent to a garden centre to be made into flower pot plants. And I'm serious when I say that. And a lot of New World whiskey distilleries and a lot of distilleries in Scotland, the new guys, are really showing up the well-established 100-and-something-year-old distilleries on what can be achieved with good quality wood in 3 to 5 years, when their 3 to 5-year-old whiskey, you know, tastes just so much better because of the high quality of wood used versus the standard 12, 14, 15-year-old malt that's been on the market that's been sitting in exhausted wood. Like, we get so many samples, and you know, Stuart made an important point with regards to the really dark whiskey is what sells.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Do you know what?
Yeah,
Absolutely right. People, you know, they like the zombies. Oh, it's dark, therefore I must get it. You know, they're just absolutely drawn to it. We've bottled some dark liquids. Yeah, the liquid's very dark. That's just because it's been fully aged in a wine cask. We just bottled up last week a Dalmonic that was it's 5 years old. We got it when it was just turned 5, and it was just in an absolutely. And this is a new distillery,
exactly,
actually,
which is shocking, really.
Owned by Pernod Ricard.
It was shite. It was absolutely shite. The word
built on the grave of Imperial Distillery, and this liquid was 5 years old in a barrel, but probably a third refill bourbon barrel. Absolutely knackered. So you know what? I just thought, well, I'll have a bit of fun with it. I'll split the liquid, put it into 3 PX firkins, left it for about 8 months, and then battered them back together, and we bottled it last week. And you know what? That is a dark whiskey.
Yeah.
It's young, it's dark.
People might think we've done it, you know, on purpose to do that, and we haven't.
Might, but also with a young whiskey, no matter in Scotland, no matter how dark you make it through the wood, the spirit really comes through very strong, much in the same way as those the Solace range from Cavalan. For those of you who've tried it, it's still big, strong distillery character coming through, even though the liquid's really dark. It does seem like there's a lot of people in the industry who just think it's dark, therefore it's good, when actually it's not always the case.
No, hardly ever the case.
But
really.
I think a lot of indie bottlers, like ourselves, you know, we're trying to just put liquid that tastes good into the bottle. And when you're dealing with an industry that, on the whole, is going up in terms of production, but skimping on wood quality, then you know we've got to try and
combat that.
Yeah, combat it, and hopefully counteract it, and put great liquid, and basically save the liquid from, you know, spending. You know, it's really sad. Some of the samples I get, and I think this has been sitting in a warehouse for 10 years. You know, it could have been sat for an extra 50 quid or 30 quid or 40 quid. They could have just bought a first fill barrel, or a first, you know, for an extra 100 quid, bought a first fill hogshead. And what I would have now would be a brilliant couple of 100 liters of great, you know, amazing liquid. But instead, it's knackered because people are skimping on just spending a very small amount of money. Anyway, sorry, that's my rant.
Sorry, we're
that's
ranting. Sorry.
But the cask can make a huge amount of difference. I tasted an 18-year-old Mortlach from Godmont Vale years ago that was over the hill. The wood had become far too dominant in the flavour. It should have been bottled 3 years before. I've got a friend who's got a cask of Tullibardine 2007, 15-year-old at the moment, and he has to bottle it either this year or next year again, otherwise the wood will be too dominant. Now, so you really have to watch it on a regular basis, so that you don't allow the wood to become too dominant.
Right, so I'm going to jump in now and just say that shall we do the thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down for this one?
Ben, can I come in first, please?
Yes, go on, Trevor.
Right, I'm a whiskey drinker, and I will continue to be a whiskey drinker, but I think that basically when we come to rums at the higher level, of which this one is definitely one, they do match the quality of some of the top whiskies as well. And I think we shouldn't be too dismissive of the rum casks that are developed by good whiskies. My favorite drink at the moment is a Ronruble 18, which is a rum, not a whiskey. So I know we are geeks, and I agree with John, we are geeks, but we've got to accept that in other things we've got to be open to other avenues. And I certainly look forward to drinking number 6, which is the Mezcal finish.
Well, Yes, and I've cheated and I've already had a little nose of that one. But before we go into that one, shall we do the old thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down for that lovely rum? Well, I already knew, Andy, that you were going to be double thumbs up on this one. Franchi, what was yours? What did you think? Thumb up?
I thought.
Okay.
Oh wait, hold on. Oh, can you hear me? Aye. I thought it was yeah, super incredible, funky, really nice. Although I was still guessing that you were split between the Linkwood and this as your two favourites. Is that right? You said sometimes this is your favourite.
No, he means the Ardmore.
Yeah. For me, some days the Linkwood is my absolute favorite, and then other days it's either the Linkwood or the Ardmore,
That
which
we're
we're
about to
about to
try.
have.
Okay. So I didn't spot anybody who actually had a major thumbs down there. Was that correct? Did everybody kind of enjoy or at least kind of get on with this one? John, I see your thumb sideways on that one.
Yeah,
Is loving it.
For me, it was great on the nose. It was okay on the palate. The finish just didn't do it for me. It was short-ish.
Are you anti-rum by any chance?
No, I'm not anti-rum. I love some rums, but really, to me, the finish was a bit dried out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I noticed we haven't necessarily heard from Jeff or Davo on this. What were you both thumbs up on this? Just give me a thumbs up or something if you were thumbs up, or I don't know if you want to jump in.
I'm not. I do like my rums. I didn't have a lot of this, but Caroline is the rum drinker, and she said she enjoyed it very much.
Okay. All right. Cheers. Okay, and Jeff is staying quiet. I'm going to allow him to just stay quiet if he wants to be, but jump in.
No, he loves it. He's been very effusive about it. Just that you're not reading the chat, mate.
Oh, okay. Yes, you're right. I'm not reading the chat fully. I'm terrible at multitasking. All right, cheers, Jeff.
That's a win-win, isn't it?
Cheers, Stuart. Yeah, thanks. Keith McKenzie, you've been quiet tonight. So what are you thinking of this?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah?
Yeah. No, I mean, to be honest, I was drinking rum long before I was drinking whiskey.
And have you found you've moved more over to whiskey lately and then maybe, or is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got to bear in mind, I started off in the Navy, so I spent more time around the Caribbean than most. So it's what was the standard tipple of the day.
Yeah.
But no, it's I quite enjoyed it. I mean, the one thing I found it was better on the palate than it was on the nose. I couldn't get anything out of the nose. But on the palate, it was really deep and rich, syrupy. It had a great mouthfeel. It was absolutely wonderful. It's number 2 on my list so far today.
Right. So on the nose, I'm going to jump in now since Keith, there's a nice little link there to nose and this Ardmore. I'm going to own up to the fact that, and I'm probably completely and utterly wrong on this, but the first thing I got from the Ardmore when I nosed it was cow piss. So
And then I got.
Listen, you sent use. What the fuck?
I don't know how I got that, but Catherine got like smoky bacon and I got cow piss. I mean, how can I be so wrong? But I've actually gone back to it now, and the cow piss is gone. You'd be pleased to know.
Caro.
I would say cow piss is more of a thing that you would know the smell of than Callum's what was it, pencil shavings in Ribena or something.
It's got definitely a meaty character. That's something that hit me.
Carol, can you be specific? Are we talking Aberdeen Angus or Ayrshire?
I'm thinking
Frisian, you know, can you?
At the pub, smoky bacon.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Stuart, I'm not going to pick on any particular breed of cow.
not getting any grassy notes at all.
It's moved on. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now and let you guys talk about this. Rachel and George, please tell us about this very interesting Ardmore.
Yeah, this is. I think this is always gonna. This was always going to be a Marmite whiskey. I don't. I think it's. In my opinion, it's the most divisive thing that we bottled. I bought 2 casks of Ardmore 2009, and about 15 months ago or so, I decided I'd put one into a Mezcal barrel and one into a dark rum barrel. The dark rum is still sitting in the warehouse.
It needs to be taken
finishing.
out.
It'll be bottled in the next few months. And then this was a very interesting cask. In my mind, I just thought the peatiness of Ardmore, coupled with the smokiness that one gets from Mezcal, I just thought it would be a fun sort of duality of smoke. And I just, in my mind, I thought, you know what? No one's done it, and I think it's just going to work. You know, good. I'm a believer of good spirit.
I'm still getting a bit of a farmyard hay kind of.
Somebody mentioned smoky bacon. Somebody else mentioned meat. You're absolutely right. For me, I get this like bacon fries, like, you know, the little pub snacks, bacon
The
fries.
king of pub snacks.
There's a little bit of kind of like pickled onion monster munch as well for me. Also char grilled steak, bit of manchego, like well-aged manchego. There's some cheesy notes coming through. It's also very saline. It's like old boats. It's very coastal. For me, I get a lot of saltiness and malt. I think it's very sweet. I think it's very vegetal. I think it's quite dank, which I love. I love that kind of vegetal, kind of wet cardboard vibes
that you get from older bottles.
That you often often get from kind of like your old blends and old malts bottled
Tim,
in the
what the
60s.
Tim Fife's taster notes. Frazzles with a slightly pissy smell. This one was the biggest surprise for me because in the year that it was in the Mezcal barrel, we had, I think, 4 samples of it, which we wouldn't usually do because it costs an arm and a leg to get a sample from a warehouse, depending on which one. And I really liked the liquid to start off with, and George did this, and I loved the rum. And for the first, I think, at least 2 samples, I was a bit pissed off with him because I thought he'd knackered it. But it just shows you, you know, the power of marrying things, really, because this now, I think, I mean, you can really smell the Mezcal on the nose, but for me, when you taste it, I don't think the Mezcal is that evident. And I think that the Ardmore actually shines through. But
it's not just smoky bacon, it's smoky bacon crisps.
Yes. Yes.
And actually, I'm the opposite to you, Rachel. I actually get the palate feels a little bit more Mezcal to me than the nose, because obviously the nose is dominated by cow piss, apparently. It isn't actually now. I am getting beyond that now. But the Mezcal is definitely, for me, it's on the palate as well. I'm definitely picking up on the palate. Not that I've had a huge amount of Mezcal before, but
that's actually
the Mezcal's on the finish, not the palate. It's on the tail, not while you got it in your mouth.
Yeah, you might be right on that, actually, John. You might be right. It is the tail end of it. It is. You're right.
That's still exactly the same.
1, 2, 3.
What's everybody else thinking?
5, 6.
Becca, you look like you're itching. You're laughing your head off here. Come on, Becca. Come on. Tell us what you're thinking.
No, I'm just laughing at Callum and Kate's notes. I thought that was absolutely hilarious.
I've missed this.
Riley's putting a farm, old tarpaulin on top held down with tie.
Yeah.
It's a light. And a pig.
You must have some parties, Callum.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Ah.
So this one for me, I mean, as I've said before, you know, the Linkwood I'm in love with, and I'm also in love with this. I know that it's not going to please everyone, and actually, you know, we were at a whiskey show today in Stirling, and I served it to one gentleman, and he looked at me with deep disdain. He honestly he took it like it was a personal insult to him that I had poured him this whiskey, and I wasn't.
Did he say it was cow piss? By any chance?
I warned him before, and I said, well, you know, this is. I said, if you don't like Mezcal and you don't like Ardmore, then you're not going to like this whiskey. I said that before, and then he asked me, what's Mezcal?
Yeah.
I briefly explained, and he still went for it. And I thought, well, okay, yeah, good on you. It's, you know, it's the punchiest that we've got on the lineup. And then he proceeded to just look at me with
Was he the one that
1,000 yards stare.
Was he the one that corrected your pronunciation on something?
Yes.
Yeah, he was just a dickhead though. So
yeah.
Who cares?
If you don't like Ardmore, there's something wrong with you, though, isn't there?
But in my defence, Rachel, it's Glen Murray, not Glen Murray. So I had to correct George at that stage, and I didn't know what Mezcal was, so I had to be honest.
So, anybody else want to add their views on this one? Because it's
Just have one question: was there a worm in the barrel?
Anybody else got anything else to say on this one, or should we do the old thumbs up, thumbs sideways and stuff for this?
Well, this is what we've been waiting for all night, isn't it? This is fantastic. As Brian says, if you don't like this, then just give up now.
Well, I have to say I'm liking it now, so I won't give up yet.
What are you doing agreeing with me, Callum?
I know it's a disgrace, isn't it? I don't know. I need to go to my bed.
He must be ill, Kate. You need to look at him. Take his temperature.
I'm going back to the rum. I'm now getting Chinese spices on the nose. Wow. Wow.
Why is it that sometimes going back to an empty glass, actually the nose is just phenomenal? And it doesn't just happen tonight. I mean, there's a lot of times where you go back to an empty Glencairn in particular, and the nose is just phenomenal.
Well, we feel the same.
You've got to sniff them all again tomorrow morning.
I think we might have to.
Before you wash them, you've got to sniff them again.
Yep. Yep.
It's the coating of the drying liquid on the overall glass, mate. It's
Yeah.
more surface. It's more surface area.
Yeah.
Compared
Just
to what
make-
you've done before.
Just make sure you do it before you smell your cow piss, Carl. Before you have your cup of cow piss, just make sure you nose those glasses.
Yeah.
Or afterwards, take the smell away.
Or after.
So
In fact, Carl, wait 1 second, Carl. In fact, if you keep your empty glass of that cow piss, come back to it later, it will be a very different smell altogether later.
it already is.
Yeah.
Right. So should we do thumbs sideways and stuff? Let's go, because I know what franchise already is. Steve T, yeah, okay. Andy, you're looking okay. You can't quite make up your mind on that one. I'm coming back to you in a second. Simon, okay. Becca, did you? Oh, right, okay. What's Ollie like? Is he thinking yes, no? Oh, yeah, okay.
Just put a massive bloody post in there.
Oh, right. Unfortunately, I've been into whiskey for. Sorry,
we don't see what Simon's doing.
Oh, no, he did. He was definitely a thumbs up on that one. Stuart's thumbs up. Rachel, George, was yours a thumbs up?
Pick on Steve, who didn't like it.
Right, Steve. Come on then. Steve Lader, come on.
It was just too savoury for me. And it did come off the back of the Linkwood that was phenomenal. And I don't think that did it any favours. It just isn't my kind of dram. I'm not a big peated fan, as a few of you will know. And the Mezcal thing, I just found a bit confusing. And then after that argument with George earlier today, that made it a bit more complicated, obviously.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else want to dive in?
And I'll go back to my statement before. It's like it's hard to pick out like one that you like or don't like. It's more like they're all amazing. Which ones do you like less than the others? Like,
well, and on that
for
note,
me, I've said in the chat. Favorite whiskey was still Linkwood. Still is. But my favorite dram of the night was the rum.
And was it because the rum was so
much
standout in
different?
terms of just different?
Just so much different, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's why a lot of us are kind of into whiskey in the first place, is to, well, any spirits really, is to try and find that thing that just stands out from everything else so much, whether you like it or not. Well, I guess, and on that note, I was just going to ask something there. Oh, yeah, please put in what you think is your top to least favorite. So what's in terms of 1 to 6, which is your favorite down to your least favorite in the chat, if you don't mind, just to kind of get a gauge of where we all kind of sit with all these.
Pardon me.
6, 4, 3, 2, 5, 1. Okay. So Callum and Kate, your least favorite was the grain. Okay. Actually,
could possibly say.
and then we had the exact opposite. Well, we had the exact opposite from Stuart England, who reckons it's the Port Dundas. Sacrilege, eh? So,
Carol, that was just a reminder of the order of the drams that was posted
Oh,
earlier.
okay.
That was all. Because I'd totally forgotten. So
yeah, thank you.
Yep.
2, 3, 4.
So 3 and 4 top drams from Steve T.
Oh, we're doing it that way, are we? Right. Okay. Right.
So yeah, your favorite to the least favorite.
1 and 2 were the same.
Linkwood favorite. John. Okay. Brandy least. Okay.
6.
It's much of a much.
Yeah.
What was 4? Linkwood. Okay.
3, 1.
4, 3, 5, 1. Yeah. Okay. That is Ollie's. Okay. Oh, Ollie went with the rum as being his favorite. Okay. Davo, the grain. Yeah. Okay. Brian. Also, Brian, you like the Ardmore the most. Okay. I think you might be the first one who said the Ardmore. Your favorites. Okay. Rum is my favorite. Okay, that's Jeff. Interesting. So actually, we've had quite a range of what's the favorite. I think the Port Dundas was up there. And definitely the Linkwood is probably the one that's mentioned as being the favorite so far the most. But yeah, quite a mix. Are you pleased with this, Rachel and George? I mean, what's your take on the kind of feedback you've had tonight?
I'm over the moon, to be honest. Like no, honestly, I really am, and it's a funny one, and like I think I said the same thing on Woody Tan's tasting. I think it's quite hard. Well, you said that no one holds back, right? But I think it's hard when you sat with people that have been putting this liquid out there, and although we haven't distilled it, and we can't take credit at all for that, we're still not the custodians. I sound like a wanker. We've put this out there, right? Yeah. And you're leaving yourself out to be quite vulnerable. So it's quite hard as people sat there tasting your stuff to then go, no, this is shite. You know what I mean? People don't really do that. But I think you guys are quite an honest bunch, I think, right? And I'm absolutely chuffed to bits with the feedback we've had from tonight.
Rachel, to be honest, we did at the Lady of the Glen last week. Or the week before.
Well, George was sat on that tasting. What was that? I was in the tune. I was out in Newcastle.
I didn't like 2 of theirs at all.
Yeah. Well, actually, I had one of them today at the Alhambra Whiskey Festival in Stirling, which was the
Teaninich
in
the
Aquavit, right?
which was my favourite of the
Which
night.
I tried today and I didn't like it all as well, to be honest. But it was intriguing though, and I'm glad that I got to try it. But I do like Lady of the Glen a lot, though. I think they're doing some cool stuff. Really.
With regards to our inaugural releases on the whole, I mean, I'm really happy with the liquids.
Yeah, we're buzzing.
Because I wouldn't have put them in the bottle if I didn't like them. The one that I knew was always going to be
the Ardmore.
Was always going to be a bit of a divider is the Ardmore. I also knew I also knew that the Linkwood was going to be very popular. What surprised me is actually how popular the rum has been.
Yeah.
We only got 148 bottles out of the cask, and they're running low now. It's a bit of a balancing act. Like obviously, launching a new indie bottling range, you want to sell your bottles, but also actually
it was never really a money making exercise for us, was it, though?
No, it's not about it's a passion project, but also you don't want to sell out too quickly. So we had someone overseas in the Netherlands who's a friend of ours, and he wanted to buy more, and it would have left us with very, very few bottles, close to running out. And so we kind of decided it's kind of nicer because we live in Edinburgh, and we kind of want to make sure that the places that stock our products where we live can stock us, and I don't want to run out. I think running out is kind of, it's not ideal. So
it's just but it is a funny one as a new indie bottler, because we're not coming in really cheap either. We're at a premium price point, and we know that, but I think we're fair for what's out there already. Obviously it's going to be hard to compete with the people that have been doing it for a long time. People like James Easy, for example, they do a lot of really nice drams for like a really good price point, but again, they've been buying for years and years. So and like our other side of the business, we never try and make loads of money from people, because we're whiskey drinkers at the end of the day, and that whiskey needs to end up in a bloody bottle. And so this our first lineup has been a bit of a funky lineup, I would say, and it was deliberately so, I would say, and it kind of sets the tone for us, I think.
So just to give you a quick snapshot of what we're bottling up for our next few releases. We've just bottled up a Balblair 25-year-old, which will be by far the most expensive that we've bottled today, or most premium, whatever. Very old. There's a 29-year-old North British, which has been fully aged for 29 years in a first fill bourbon barrel. It is one of the best single grains I've ever had in my life.
It's really good.
We had it today as the sort of special dram.
Half-time orange.
It went down a treat.
All the old boys were like coming up, lining up, getting it, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, there's also a Dalmunnock, which is a relatively new distillery. That's one that's been given a hefty PX Birkin finish, and then there's also another North British, a vatting of of 30-year-old barrels, because they're both quite low in the volume, so we're throwing them together. So we got a brace of North British coming.
I know.
A Dalmunnock and then a Balblair. And we're working on future releases. So keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah.
Well, before anybody starts buggering off, I'd like to just make sure that we all hopefully jump in together and say how wonderful it's been to have Rachel and George join us tonight.
Yep.
And I don't think I've ever asked this question, but you guys are brand new as an indie bottler, and let us know how we can help spread the word, because the stuff that we've had tonight as your first releases have been bloody good. There's
Thank
no
you so
doubt
much.
about it.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Word of mouth, I think, is how we've. That's how our business has always grown. We don't do
hard selling, really.
sponsored ads or hard selling or anything.
No.
Word of mouth has always treated us right up until now. So, you know, if it is just be honest, and hopefully that's decent word of mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the liquid's got to sell, hasn't it?
Yeah.
No, really good. Really impressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. That's very kind of you. Cheers.
And what a great lineup in terms of just having the different spirits to compare and contrast.
Yeah,
that's something that doesn't happen very often. Let's just say that. And it's been eye-opening for me personally. I mean, I've had all these different kind of spirits, but not necessarily all lined up in such good quality all together. So that's been an absolute delight for me anyway. Thanks everybody for joining. Sorry.
Sorry, Carl. We're very much looking forward to coming to Newcastle Indie Love Fest as well. Very much looking forward to it. And congratulations on selling all of your exhibit stands as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
thank you.
really awesome.
It's going to be great having you there, I tell you. I can't wait. It'll be grand to have your stand there. With perhaps, are you likely to have another set of releases or two potentially by September?
We'll have another few bottles.
No, I think we might have it.
Oh, when is it? When is it?
It's in September.
Oh yeah. We'll have like a whole fresh set of stuff.
Yeah.
Including
and to be fair,
big brandy, an absolute black brandy. And some other funky things. Maybe an American whiskey thrown in there.
Oh,
maybe an American rye whiskey finished in a mezcal barrel.
Oh shit! Now you're really.
It just got real.
We're gonna go now because we're gonna go off to the Curly Coo in Stirling.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yay! So we're going to go and see Mary. So we're very excited about that.
Well, thank you very much, guys, for coming along. It's been a cracking tasting. Looking forward to seeing how successful you guys are.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
You too.
Enjoy.
Give my regards to Mandy. I saw her this afternoon. Right. Well, what the hell?
Yeah.
Well, Mandy had a wee